One way that we can know the Bible is really God's Word and not just a man-made book is through Bible prophecy. There are literally thousands of very specific prophecies in the Bible, many of which have already been fulfilled with 100% accuracy. No other religious book or book in general in the world can make such a claim. For example, many years ago, a man named Nostradamus wrote a book filled with prophecies about the future, but most of his prophecies are very vague and many of them have been shown to be false prophecies. There are 333 prophecies in the Bible about the coming of the Messiah. God told us these things in advance so we would know who the true Messiah is. Over the years, before and after the time of Jesus, many false messiahs have come and deceived many people, and in fact, as we are living in the end times, we can expect many more false messiahs to arrive on the scene. Of the 333 prophecies about the Messiah, Jesus fulfilled 109 of them in his first coming, which tells us he will fulfill the remaining prophecies in his second coming. The odds of fulfilling 109 prophecies are so completely astronomical that it proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Jesus is the promised Messiah. By way of comparison, consider the college basketball tournament here in America known as March Madness. Millions of people fill out millions of brackets every year trying to predict a perfect bracket of 64 teams. The odds of predicting a correct bracket are 9.2 quintillion. That is 9.2 followed by 17 zeros. In other words, pretty much impossible, which is why after years of trying, no one has ever predicted a correct bracket. In fact, no one has even come close to a perfect bracket. Now, those are the odds of predicting less than 100 events, and yet Jesus fulfilled over 100 prophecies in his first coming. In Matthew chapter 2, we have 5 prophecies about the coming of Jesus the Messiah being fulfilled. We looked at 2 of these prophecies in the previous video, the wise men following the star and Jesus being born in Bethlehem, Israel. In the next prophecy, we see Jesus being called out of the land of Egypt. While Jesus was born in the land of Israel, after his birth, his parents had to take him to the land of Egypt to escape death. A wicked man known as Herod the Great tried to have Jesus killed shortly after his birth. Herod was a very paranoid person. He feared that when Jesus grew up, he would replace him as king, so he ordered all baby boys 2 years and younger to be killed. This is the reason Joseph and Mary took Jesus to Egypt. After Herod died, they returned with Jesus to the land of Israel. This fulfilled a prophecy in the Old Testament from the book of Hosea, chapter 11, verse 1, which says, "Out of Egypt have I called my son." Just as the nation of Israel, who is called God's son, came out of the land of Egypt after 400 years of slavery, so Jesus, the Son of God, will also come out of the land of Egypt. After the soldiers of Herod killed all the baby boys in and around the city of Bethlehem, Israel, in an attempt to kill Jesus, there was a tremendous amount of weeping by the mothers because of their dead children. This brutal action fulfilled what God had spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A cry was heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning. Rachel weeps for her children, refusing to be comforted, for they are dead. In Jeremiah chapter 31, God tells Jeremiah there will be a great amount of weeping in the city of Ramah, which is a small city just north of Jerusalem, Israel. This happened around the year 586 BC when King Nebuchadnezzar came from Babylon and destroyed the temple in Jerusalem and took the people captive to the land of Babylon. Zedekiah, the king of Jerusalem at the time, was captured and taken to Ramah, where the king of Babylon had set up a sort of temporary court. The king of Babylon found Zedekiah guilty and had all of his children killed before his eyes. His eyes were then gouged out and he was taken captive to Babylon, where he died. What Matthew is saying is that just as the people were weeping and wailing after having their children killed before their eyes at Ramah, so the people were weeping and wailing after the soldiers of King Herod killed their baby boys. The final prophecy in Matthew chapter 2 says that when Joseph and Mary returned from Egypt to Israel, They heard that Herod's son now reigned in the place of Herod after his death. So instead of settling in the town of Bethlehem, where Jesus was born, they decided to move to Nazareth, a city in northern Israel. This fulfilled a prophecy that Jesus would be called a Nazarene. Now, there is no specific prophecy in the Old Testament that says Jesus would be called a Nazarene. However, the city of Nazareth was known as a low-income, blue-collar type town. People from this city were generally looked down upon and despised. In fact, one of the disciples of Jesus, upon first hearing that Jesus grew up in the city of Nazareth, remarked, "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" There is a prophecy in Isaiah chapter 53, which is the greatest prophecy about the coming of the Messiah, that says the Messiah would be despised. So in this way, Jesus fulfilled this prophecy. One other thing about Jesus being called a Nazarene, many people confuse Nazarene with the Old Testament vow of a Nazarite. The Old Testament book of Numbers, chapter 6, talks about taking the vow of a Nazarite. During the time of being under this vow, a person was not supposed to cut their hair. The most famous person who took the vow of a Nazarite was Samson, the strongest man to ever live. Samson had very long hair since he was a Nazarite his whole life from the day he was born. Jesus, however, never took the vow of a Nazarite, so he would not have let his hair grow long, as he is often pictured with long hair. He was a Nazarene, meaning he was from the city of Nazareth, but he was not a Nazarite with long hair, and no doubt would have had short hair, as this was the custom of the day.